So have you ever wondered why the United States economy is looked at in favorable or unfavorable terms based off of the stock market and, most importantly, the Dow Jones Industrial Index? Let me ask you a question. When's the last time America has had a bustling, booming economy based on industry? And what I mean by that is manufacturing, all that good stuff. I would submit to you it's been 30 plus years. Okay, so why do we still look at that? I think that's another big topic, but I'm going to dive in a little bit now. I could spend hundreds of hours again just on that topic, but people look at that because it is, in theory, it is based off of what our dollar is based off of, and that is debt. Okay, so what I mean by that is people call those equities, and that's fine. You can certainly call them equities, but I submit to you that they only go up or down now, and this is since 2007 and 8, based on debt and based on what the Federal Reserve is doing. Right now, the Federal Reserve is dumping trillions and trillions of dollars into the stock markets and into the banking industry as forms of keeping banks solvent and keeping the stock market what's called propped up, basically. How does that work? Well, let's define a few things first. When we use in our homes electricity, like you see these lights that are going on right now, and this camera I'm using to film, and the water we use and all that good stuff, what do we get in the mail or via online or however you get them to pay for those services? It's called a bill, right? Isn't that interesting? Let's think of other things that are called bills. So when Congress convenes and has any kind of spending, they issue a bill. That's right. It means that the American people owe the money, which is fascinating because of a thing I'm going to get into in a second. Also, too, your dollars that you hold are called what? Dollar bills. That's right. So, in regards to what a bill is, hey, it's an invoice basically for services rendered. Okay. So let me get into a couple facts for you. Number one, your tax dollars do not pay for your government. Here's how that works. And this gets into why a couple things are key that I'm going to get into that you can start looking for now in order to set the plan that hopefully you guys will come up with in place to survive and thrive during this time. Your tax dollars don't pay for your government. What happens is the Federal Reserve issues dollar bills in exchange to the United States Treasury for bonds. The whole word bond there is pretty interesting too. They also issue notes and all that good stuff. But basically, it's an issuance of debt traded for a little piece of the action, which means a little piece of the taxpayer dollars. Okay, so your taxpayer dollars are not going directly to fund things like education or things like interstate highways or any of that. Your tax dollars are going to directly fund the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve charges interest, which is why T-bills, T-notes, T-bonds are set in interest rates, okay? So you like the 10-year yield, the 30-year yield, all that good stuff is the interest rate that is going to be paid for these bonds. The Federal Reserve charges these interest rates in order to print the money, quote unquote, I say money, it's really currency, as their services, right? So they get interest they receive interest in order to provide the service of printing. All your tax dollars, federal government-wise, go to pay the Federal Reserve for that, which is crazy. This is why when we talk about Dave Ramsey's plan, that while it works, it still keeps you in the game. You're still playing the game because he says use cash. Cool. I'm all for that in certain circumstances. But he says use cash in order to get out of debt. Well, when your dollar bills, your cash is called a bill. Is that not debt? Right? So these are all things we have to think of, and I'm not saying I have all the answers. Please know this, guys, I am not a financial advisor. I don't do that kind of stuff. I can tell you what I do. I can give you information that I learned, but I don't advise anyone on anything they are to do. I can tell you what I would do in a certain circumstance, but that is not based off of anything. As some YouTubers put it, you should probably not listen to me when it comes to advice because you could lose all your money, and I don't want to see that happen. But I do want to see you come up with a plan that you can then gauge how that plan will work best for you. I can certainly help you that and tell you what I would do in that situation. But again, I don't give financial advice. I'm not an advisor. So why is this debt cycle important? Well, right now, it's what's propping up the United States economy. And we can see that directly now. They have hidden the inflation of 2008 very well in the stock market. The stock market has went through the roof while Main Street has suffered. And we can see that every day in our food prices. And, before this cough, cough, sniff, sniff happened, we could see it in the oil prices. That's a whole nother video topic for why the oil price did what it did. But I want to get into why that's okay. So why that's important. Oil price, I submit, directly backs our dollar as far as confidence around the world. We have set up things with OPEC nations to have them pay in dollars, and for that we guarantee them military backing. Prime example of this is Kuwait. What happened in Kuwait in the early 90s, 1990, 1991. They are an OPEC nation. When Iraq invaded them, we protected them. So anyway, the backing of oil to our dollar is key because it also says that the United States military backs our dollar as well, which is really interesting. So gold and silver have nothing to do with our United States dollar anymore. If you see the oil price tanking or spiking, that should tell you that your dollar is either getting stronger or weaker in regards to different currencies. Okay, so what that means is, say you have like the yen here, right? The dollar and the yen are going to go like this together. And what that means is they're going to fluctuate based off of different things. So right now, the dollar is, believe it or not, strengthening against other currencies while still weakening against itself month to month, which is a really strange anomaly that's happening right now, which, everything's kind of up in the air right now, right? So long story short, oil price going up or down, major concern. Another thing you need to look for is the 10-year yield. 10-year yield is the vote of confidence, I say, for the economy at large in the next 10 years. Right now, that rate is going up. It was down to right at about 0.5%. As of close yesterday, it closed at 0.63%, and it's fluctuating today. Today being August 19th, 2020. So the 10-year yield, and why is that a vote of confidence for the future? Remember, a little earlier I said that this whole thing is based off of debt. It's a debt cycle, and we can never get out of it without a total reset. So what the debt cycle will do is prop up the stock market because the Federal Reserve, who is printing money like no tomorrow, is dumping money into the stock market through equity purchases and all that good stuff. They are doing some of it overtly and most of it covertly. So anyway, long story short, 10-year yield is a major indicator on how your dollar will perform, and how more so how the stock market will perform. And again, stock market and your dollar are, for all intents and purposes, separated. They are divided right now. So Main Street is hurting right now. Wall Street is going gangbusters. We've almost gained back everything we lost in the past few months. I think with the exception of maybe 1,000 points. So it's kind of crazy. So that will be a major indicator of how the stock market is going to do. I want to talk about a term called derivatives. This is not a term I hear a lot. In 2008, you heard it a ton. And I think it's going to come and rear its ugly head. I think it's going to be the wild card that's going to dictate how our economy goes, maybe for the rest of our lives. So what a derivative is, let me read the official definition of a derivative for you. A derivative is a contract between two or more parties whose value is based on an agreed upon underlying financial asset, like a security, or a set of assets, like an index. Common underlying instruments include bonds, commodities, currencies, interest rates, market indices, and stocks. In 2008, derivatives also included mortgages, which is pretty interesting. As a part of as a part of the Federal Reserve's buying thing, I told you that they're buying into the stock market. Well, how they're doing that is they're directly dumping money into Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, buying mortgages, okay? I submit that the Federal Reserve would buy the shirt off your back if it were for sale, okay? They want to buy everything now. They want to buy literally every asset that they can get their hands on, okay? And why do they want to do that? They want to be the lender and buyer of last resort. I think they want to be the lender and buyer of only resort, okay? Who do you think is funding the stimulus? Who do you think is funding the unemployment that's going to probably start again in September? Who do you think's funding all of that? Who do you think's funding the PPP? Who do you think's funding the EIDL loans that went out, okay? The Federal Reserve. We don't have that money now. The Federal Reserve has to print it and is then paid interest on that money later on. It's a dirty, dirty thing. Let's talk more about derivatives. Part of those assets, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that are being bought right now are mortgages, and they're packaged together in good and bad, sound, okay, mortgages, some super bad, they're never going to pay it back, some really good, they've paid for 20 years. They're all packaged together and sold. They've done that multiple times. So it's like me taking this sheet of paper and ripping it into 100 pieces and selling that 100 pieces. But then saying, well, I could potentially rip those again, and then I would sell the next person 200 pieces. And then say, oh, well, I could rip that 10 times more. And then I sell the chance that that's going to get ripped on, 1,000 more times to the next person. So basically you're gambling, okay? If you hear the word derivative in mainstream media, go get your money out of the bank. That's my plan. Because if you hear them talk about a derivative, it's going to be in a negative light. And when they talk about a derivative in a negative light, it means that all these fake contracts on assets that, quite frankly, do not exist in the form that they were sold in, are going down. And what that means is it's going to take dollars to bail it out. And that means, like we talked about before, you're going to get bailed in. So you're going to take a haircut to pay for some of these banks' really bad decisions on financial stuff. So where are we going? Let's wrap this up. Where are we going? Nothing is sound. Nothing is as it seems in the financial markets. Nothing. And so there are a few things that I think can help in this thing. Sorry, there's a bug. There's a few things that I think can help you and your family during this time. I'm a huge silver and gold guy. I think throughout time immemorial, it has held its value. I think, as you saw before, in 1913, you could have bought a really nice suit of clothes for $25, which was, $5 over an ounce of gold, right? And in 2020, you can buy a really nice suit of clothes for about $2,000, which is the price of an ounce of gold. So it's a store of value. I want to encourage you all to think outside the box when it comes to money, okay? Right now, we can take worthless pieces of paper, so a little value theory here as we close. Value is only as good as you and I see it, okay? It's perception. That's all it is. So if this pen was used by me to write my notes, okay? Whatever. Now, what if I tell you this pen was used by Babe Ruth to sign this baseball. This pen becomes very valuable at that point, right? So value is perception. That's all it is. So it's whatever we lend credence to that gives it value, all right? So what gives things value? Well, historically, gold and silver give things value. But more importantly, I think what gives things value is your work and your production and your effort. It is absolutely key to produce to be able to have any kind of value, all right? So if I store my value of work in this, that's interesting, right? So long story short, find things that you can store your value in. So me and my family, we want to create products that help people. So all these years and years and years of research that we've done for certain things, like my wife with homeschooling, myself with finance and music, we want to create things that benefit people and have that be a store of the value of the work we've done, okay? When it comes to finances now, I think we all need to be thinking. I'm not saying we're there yet, but I'm saying we will eventually be there. I think we need to be thinking in survival terms, okay? In preparedness terms. You know, there's the rule of three in the survivor community, right? So 3 minutes without air, you're dead. 3 hours in extreme circumstances without sufficient shelter, like a snowstorm or something, you might freeze to death, you're dead. 3 days without water, you're dead. 3 weeks without food, you're dead. So we need to be preparing on those lines, I think, with our finances. Hey, does your family have enough food, water, shelter, clothing and stuff to last? What if we have rolling power outages? When I was in South Africa, that economy was going through some really tough times. And so when we got there, their currency was like 7 of theirs to 1 of ours, okay? Right now, it's 25 of theirs to 1 of ours. And the last time I went was in 2012 or 2011. So it's been less than a decade. So the economy has gotten 3 times, or well, more than 3 times worse than it was in 10 years. That's a huge deal, right? So how do you protect yourself from that? Buying storable food right now is like buying food on sale 6 months from now, okay? I would be doing some of that. I would be making sure your water and your air are pure. I would be doing a lot of those things before you went all crazy, speculative, okay? What's going to happen now is people are going to start pricing things, and I've already seen this in the retail world. People are going to start speculatively pricing goods. So if you've noticed, gasoline, that's priced on speculation. And what that means is they are pricing that gallon of gasoline for what it's going to take to fill their tanks up next month to provide more gasoline, okay? And if it goes down, you can tell that next month gas is going to be cheaper. So if it starts going up, you can tell that gas is going to be more expensive. Every good and service that you buy from here on out is going to be priced according to that system. So what that means is the price of a loaf of bread is going to be speculatively priced. How much is it going to cost me 6 months from now to replace that loaf of bread to then sell it again, okay? You're going to start seeing that on store shelves very, very soon. Plan accordingly, okay? Whatever you can do now, we are downsizing our lives as much as we can. I'm getting rid of things. We're not wealthy people. We've made good decisions, but we're not wealthy by any means. But I want to store food. I want to store, good quality air for my children. I want to store defense, right? If you have things that you've stored value in, you want to be able to defend them. Those are the things I would start doing now. What's cool about buying food and water and stuff like that, you can eat your mistake. If something happens and this all gets fixed and there's no more social unrest and all that good stuff, you and I know the likelihood of that happening. But if that's the case, you can eat your mistake, right? You can eat the food and there's no mistake there, right? So I just think it's a good way to financially get ready. If you've got things to speculate in, if you've got money set aside that you can go in, just remember, the more debt that's issued, the higher the stock market is going. They love debt, okay? Unless there's some catastrophic event that comes to take it down, the stock market will continue to go up because it's based on debt, okay? Get your house in order, get right with the Father. That's the most important thing. All this matters nothing. Okay, it doesn't even matter if we're not right with the Father. And the Apostle Paul talks about it in Timothy. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, right? Don't love this stuff because it's not even real, guys. It's perception. It's literally the yellow brick road. If you want to read a really good book to kind of give you some insight in allegory form, read L. Frank Baum's The Wizard of Oz. It's fascinating. Read the one from 1900. Okay? It's said, this is just theory, it's said that he wrote that about the coming Federal Reserve, which is fascinating. I will give you kind of a little spoiler in that book. Her shoes, Dorothy's shoes, are not ruby red in the book. They're silver. And they're walking on the yellow brick road, which is really interesting. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful, you guys. I hope you have gleaned something from it. I want to encourage you that the money that we use, quote unquote, again, it's really called currency, but even the store value that you have, it means absolutely nothing without the Father and His blessing. I pray His blessings on you. I pray that you find peace and rest during this time. I pray that He gives you the insight and that you follow His word to be able to follow His will. God bless.